Hi there, Steve King, back with you once again, and I know you've just been listening to something on template memories that I put together to help you to understand what they are. So what I'm going to do now is actually lead you through the most simple technique that I have in order to be able to clear, collapse these sort of memories. So I'm going to go through the sequence. I'm going to ask you to bear with me on this and actually go through it with me. I'll describe a little bit about it because remember we talked about your trauma list as well, whether you've got multiple memories of abuse or things you have witnessed vicariously. And remember I mentioned also about 9/11. The trauma there for a lot of people was not that they were there, not that they witnessed it live, but the multiple times they had to witness it on their TV screens, etc., through the newspapers, but mainly in pictorials where the images were just devastating to witness. The towers coming down, people in anguish, people jumping out of the buildings, just a nightmarish situation. And that really got locked in and frozen because a lot of sensitive and empathetic people were having difficulty believing this was happening and literally happening and unfolding right in front of their eyes in such a major disaster. And that happens around the world. So unfortunately there are millions of people who have had these sort of traumas and they go through their entire lifetime having them locked inside. So what we're going to do is I would suggest if you have one traumatic incident that you know is locked in imagery wise, focus on that. And if you have multiple, focus on the earliest one you can, because like a high-rise building, instead of starting from the top and chipping down, if we can start from the foundation by clearing some of that foundation, some of the other stuff will implode because it contains similar elements, similar feelings, similar stuckness, but definitely the feelings. We want them to be able to shift and move. And it also takes away literally some of the heaviness of the weight of carrying these burdens. So we're looking for some implosion here, but we're also looking to clean and clear that particular image of memory. So I mentioned about the high rise. We in fact want these floors in a sense to disintegrate and dissolve. Now there was a lady called Tapas Fleming. She designed the Tapas acupressure technique, and it was a matter of holding a certain pose and doing that a few times. Now this final pose that I've now instituted was as a result of a lady who lives in British Columbia. She's a therapist as well. Her name is Jane Wakefield. And what she did, she got people to cup their hands like this around their ears, because we have 5 acupressure points around the ears. You don't have to push in or squeeze, you just hold them there. And they represent the points 17 through to 21 of the triple warmer meridian. So when you do that, let's say you've got a memory that you're going to look at, a traumatic moment that still impacts you, and you're going to put your attention on that. But as you put your attention, you're going to cup the hands around the ears. So let's do that first. You cup the hands around the ears, then you'll be closing your eyes. I'm asking you not to do that part right now, but that's the next step. I just want you to watch how I do this. So I've got my hands cupped around the ears, I've got my eyes closed, and then I breathe nice and deeply from the diaphragm to make sure that oxygen is circulating throughout my system and specifically in the brain area. Then you put your attention on the image, on the memory. So you've got that attention on there, and you look and you check to see, as you're observing, is that image moving or is it stuck and frozen like a still photograph? If it is moving, just stay focused on it, observe it, breathe nice and deeply, and just watch as it unfolds and hopefully comes to a natural conclusion, and that will move on. However, if it is stuck and frozen, then what you do, you take 2 fingers from both hands, place them either side of the bridge of the nose, the beginning of the eyebrows. So 2 right beside, 2 just outside. And then as you focus on that, this is called the 3-spot tapping point. I'm going to just suggest to you, you look at the image and you start to tap here. And you can tap fairly solidly and rapidly without hurting yourself. So, mind is focused on the image, you're breathing nice and deeply, and you're tapping. Now, after a while, you may just notice that it disappears. It just seems to float off into the air. If it doesn't, take the two fingers from sides of the eyes, bridge of the nose, to literally sides of the eyes. So again, bridge of the nose, beginning of the eyebrows there, to the sides of the eyes, and you stand focused on the image. You start to tap the sides of the eyes. Now this is where anger and rage is usually located, so that can be connected. And then the next move, after about 10 seconds in each of these places, the final point of the 3-spot tapping is under the eyes. This is the end of the stomach meridian. So anxiety, nervous tension, butterflies, that can help there. So if you bear in mind those 3 points, so the bridge of the nose, beginning of the eyebrows, that's the third eye point as they would call it. It's also the pineal gland. And what you're doing, these shock and trauma moments get locked into the pineal gland as a crystalline substance in the pineal, and that's where that light, that frozen moment of time, literally gets frozen and locked in there. So when you're tapping like this, you're actually getting it vibrating, and it can start to move. And once it starts to move, it clears, and then both hemispheres of the brain recognize that it's over, it's done with. As I mentioned, side of the eyes, that's for anger and rage, under the eyes for stress and anxiety. Now, once you've done that, I just urge, if it seems like it's moved and clean and cleared, just go back to cupping the hands around the ears again, recheck the image and scene, and note if anything has happened. Is it cleared? Is it stuck? And if it is still stuck, that's when we go to the inner child the inner child reclamation, or adult self-reclamation, and that will be coming up. And that is when you know you've got a shock locked in there as opposed to trauma. And there's a way to collapse that. But this, as I said, is the most simple way of dissipating and cleaning and clearing one of those template memories. So I hope that has been helpful, and I hope you will give yourself permission to work on that, practice that, or do that with clients if you are a practitioner.